He was the typical 9-to-5 worker getting no play for his entire life until he got reincarnated into a new world. Upon starting his new life, he begins offering his services such as picking locks to a party filled with various members, each with their own strange habit. Despite these handyman tricks and gimmicks, he has to figure out how to properly play his role in this new world. Episode 1. Scene opening a lock is our protagonist, Saitu, a handyman from another world. Before he was in this world of magic, however, he was your typical locksmith in Japan. Despite his skills, he would usually get ridiculed by older women for charging a reasonable price to open their locks. Because of how many middle-aged women would try to finesse him from his money, he went to this new world to help others. The knight, fairy, and an old geezer in his squad, they clear a dungeon with ease. Lockpicking isn't the only task Saitu can do, however. Offering to repair the knight's helmet, he hands it to him, and he starts smacking it around with his hammer, making her question if his skills are authentic. Before long, however, her helmet is repaired, making the girl knight realize just how useful someone like Saitu is to have around. Following this, once they exit the dungeon, we learn that the old geezer is the highest level of them all, standing at level 83. The knight is level 41 and the fairy 35, while Saitu is only level 8. The knight informs him that although the old geezer is the highest level, he has dementia. They have to help him do anything. Apparently one day when working as a court magician, he teleported his body into a golem somehow. Because of this, he was forgotten and thought to be a monster until he helped out the others. Talk about him in a kind manner, despite the various mishaps that he would do. One time, he completely forgot he was already in the other party, so he asked to join nonchalantly. They ignored the old geezer's dumb remark, only to later find him marching towards them with a group of zombies. The old geezer is so old that he forgets he is even alive from time to time. The knight then reveals that she has died once before, but was saved by the old geezer. After talking about this, they prepare their march further into the mountains until the old geezer starts complaining about his back. Tells them to heal him quickly. The fairy proceeds, not without charging him, however. After Saitu sees this, he offers to hold the money for her. She rejects his obvious scheme to steal her money. Saitu then thinks if she won't give it to him, then he'll just make a cute backpack in an instant. He hands it to the fairy and she gets ecstatic, causing the old geezer to want a small backpack too. Later that day, the knight's armor gets broken again, so Saitu offers to repair it. While repairing, he pulls out a ruler to show that he knows exactly how long 3 inches is from experience. Once the old geezer hears this, he emerges and starts yapping about some random story. He explains that in the past, a king had 300 children, all with only 4-inch-long schlongs. Since this day, many people have been short, making Saitu wonder if it's better for someone like the fairy. Meanwhile, a dwarf is seen using magic in a forest, hoping to get some change from monster scraps. With a single spell, he is able to defeat such large foes, tailing that he isn't someone to mess around with. Little do others know, however, this man is lonely, feeling as if no one is strong enough to stand by his side. While this happens, other adventurers are seen in a dungeon preparing to clear it all. With one of the girls wielding a large axe and a cobra skin dress, she also appears to be a formidable foe. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. What's an underrated anime other people should know about? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now back to the recap. Saitu, on the other hand, is seen at a blacksmith shop flirting with the owner's daughter, Mavena. He shows off his various skills to her, impressing her until a fully armored guest emerges. Them standing tall and looking menacing, tension rises, making Saitu uncomfortable. Not long after Saitu notices that this is Ryelza, the knight he had been traveling with, denies that it's her and rushes out, thinking she could have fooled Saitu with her new plate of armor. Once running away, the fairy comforts her, urging her to just talk to Saitu rather than try and spy on him. Later that week, Mavena is seen buying a sword from some thug, thinks he ripped her off. He laughs to himself about making a load of cash, but little does he know the same sword has a hidden form, making it worth 10x the asking price. Following this, Saitu heads into a dungeon with his party, but because of his low level, he gets knocked back. This forces him to rely on the old geezer, but he forgets his spell, forcing Ryelza to step in and handle the monster. After this happens, Saitu realizes just how useless he is, knowing that his skills from his previous life are useless here. Because of this realization, he asks the old geezer to teach him magic, hoping that he remembers who he is. Before he can teach him, they need to exit the dungeon first, but with a seemingly endless number of zombies, it's not looking grim. As more and more zombies approach, the old geezer finally steps up and offers to use some magic. By repeating the magic words, he calls upon his spell and gathers energy in his wand, yet again forgets the rest of the spell. Right before the others step up to help, Saitu tells him the rest of the spell, allowing him to humble the zombies. This makes him finally feel userful until he realizes that the geezer is still just a geezer. Ryelza, on the other hand, is impressed that he was able to remember the spell. Now, with Saitu having traveled with the group for a bit, thinks he knows what he is doing until he finds himself in an unfortunate situation. Originally finding a golden treasure chest, he had no option but to pick the lock. Upon opening it, however, a light flashes and forces him down a hole, bringing him to the current situation, now at level 10. And in the cave by himself, Saitu wonders if he has any chance at making it out alive. Tries to move, but realizes his leg is broken, forcing him to lay around and think about his previous life. See, he had always been overworked and abused by his boss, making him feel like the lowest of lows. Now, with a party to help him, he wishes his life doesn't end here, and unsurprisingly, his party emerges to tell him they need his help, reminding him although he is low level, he is still super useful. Although Saitu has no combat skills, no one else in the party can break into houses or make little backpacks like him. Episode 2. Because of how weak he is, the other party members give him a shot at fighting a monster. He struggles against them. With the monster before him having 5 heads and a slimy surface, it's difficult to defeat, even with the old geezer's help. Regardless, Saitu powers through, eventually defeats the monster, earning him some experience. After he defeats the monster, he asks them to help cook it up for him, knowing that he can also cook. Before this happened, however, he met with Mavena to ask her for tools to hopefully one day cook. Now, with these tools, he properly skins the monster, prepares some ribs on a stick, continues by adding in spices and such, making a marvelous dish for the others. They act as if they have never seen food before, so their mouth starts watering. On taking the first bite, they realize this isn't just some average meal, savoring every bite. Ryelza thinks nothing of it at first. Once she takes a bite, she realizes the old geezer wasn't just acting delusional as usual. Where everyone takes a bite, they recommend that he opens up his own stop where he sells his monster goods. Knows, however, that this isn't life for him, so he continues with the party, exploring various dungeons. With his lockpicking skills, he is able to access which chests are real, which are the fakes. Eventually, he runs into one with wires holding it from above, causing Saitu to cut it as if it was a bomb. Clicks the wires with confidence, but eventually he messes up, causing a slime to emerge from the roof. It melts through all of Ryelza's armor, revealing a stunning figure contrary to what the armor entails. While this happens, an elf girl is seen powering through monsters using various martial arts techniques. After she defeats the monsters, a girl priestess emerges and heals the elf, showing the two have some chemistry. Following this, they continue farming monsters until the elf girl get injured again. With only healing skills, the priestess enjoys seeing the elven girl get injured, giving her free reign over her body. Eventually, she gets comfortable with her, so she begins licking her, making the elven girl nervous. While this happens, an orc is seen overlooking them, wishing he could have a taste of the elf girl as well. On the other hand, the king of the land is seen bumming around his old castle. With him seeming just as stupid as the old geezer, he walks around without a thought in mind. Following this, the dwarf from earlier enters the room to try and defeat the king. He gets taken down with ease. King re-enters the room to find this and asks his guard what happened. Guard explains that some pests entered, changing the subject to talk about the demon king. While they talk, King asks some ugly monster standing before him about his plans, revealing the king is in close contact with the demon king. As they talk, a new knight enters the throne room, covered head to toe in gold-plated armor. No one pays any mind to the man, eventually having him revealed as the demon king using another form. Saitu, on the other hand, is still traveling with his party, this night cooking dinner for them. While they eat, the old geezer's back starts hurting again, so he asks for healing, leaving Saitu and Ryelza some alone time. Ryelza offers to show Saitu something, guiding him to the fairy's location under the moonlight. She reveals that the fairy, La Fonpan, is a moonlight fairy that is able to harness her powers under the moonlight. One unique feature of this is over time they gradually get smaller and smaller. Ryelza reveals that when she first met her, she was a human size. Now she is a tiny pipsqueak. Once Saitu hears this, he offers to give her all of his money. Now knowing that her size gets smaller, the less money she has to offer to the fairy queen. Once he learns this, he asks her for various things in hope that she will charge him for it. By using this loophole, he is able to not only help himself feel better, but help her grow bigger. While talking, cracks the lock on a crate till the unexpected happens. Saitu and Ryelza both get sucked into the chest, are teleported to a new location. All alone, Ryelza looks around and informs Saitu this must be a lower level of the dungeon. Tells him that things will get sticky from now on. He needs to stay close by her side. As she says this, she gets embarrassed, not wanting Saitu to take it the wrong way. Saitu, on the other hand, doesn't think much of it, wishing she would protect him. As they continue, they run into an iron golem, forcing Ryelza to take the lead. A mid-ranked warrior, she wonders how to deal with such an opponent, but begins by testing her luck. Strikes the golem multiple times, and thankfully, it gets affected by the attack, dropping to its knees. Right when she thinks she can get in a good hit, however, she gets thrown back. This makes Saitu realize she doesn't stand a chance, so he wonders how he can possibly help her. Eventually, he remembers the slime from before. He whips it out and throws it on on the golem. It works instantly, melting away at the golem and giving Ralza an opportunity to strike it. Although he created an opening, Saitu is still caught by the golem and severely injured. While on the brink of death, Saitu wonders how he even ended up in this world in the first place. He thinks back and remembers always being a background character. Despite having such a simple life, he felt as if people needed him for his lock-picking skills. Now with him saving Ralza, he feels as if he can rest for good, this time satisfied with his life. Ralza, on the other hand, doesn't give up, looking down at Saitu and wondering if her expensive potion will work on him. She thinks about saving it, but ultimately realizes if she wants to save him, she needs to give this potion to him. With him pretty much unconscious, Ralza takes this chance to get a smooch on Saitu, without him knowing. Following this, he puts her helmet back on and shies away from Saitu. She decides to not reveal how she administered the potion, leaving Saitu to wonder what they are talking about. Episode 3. Within a guild is a man named Borg who tries to find himself a hot, high-level girl to join his party. The clerk reminds him that as a 42-year-old level 12, he has no chance of recruiting someone, so he needs to keep dreaming. As they talk, Saitu is seen outside, peeping on them, where he laughs at the middle-aged man for almost being higher level than him. As he talks, he suddenly sees Morlock, the old geezer and wizard of the group. He talks with the lady and asks her to marry him, informing her he needs a wife. After he says this, Knight enters the room and guides him out, acting like this wasn't the first time he did this. They then head into a dungeon where standing before them is a succubus. Once Saitu sees this, he falls in love with her seductive body, so he approaches her. With lustful eyes, he grabs her hands. Ralza has other plans, knocking the succubus away. After her first engaged strike, the succubus cowers down and admits defeat. Despite the succubus being gone, Saitu is still under the charm spell, this time its main target being Ralza. Him madly in love with her under the spell, he advances closer, making Ralza wonder if she should take this chance. Thankfully, he gets cured, but to their surprise, the succubus has changed her gaze onto Morlock. The others decide to just leave him alone and let him work his magic on her. Morlock, being such a high-level mage, resists her spells easily, meaning he is hitting on her on his own accord. Following this, they head deeper in the dungeon until they are stopped by an electric current. With Ralza wearing steel armor, she knows if she tries to cross, she will get electrocuted, so she changes. While she changes, Morlock forgets about the trap, entirely causing him to walk straight into it. While this happens, some mega old geezer swings around a bone club, destroying enemies with a single hit. On the other hand, within the desert, two men fight, one a ninja and the other a coward. The ninja being incredibly strong, he defeats enemies with ease till he runs into a 400-year-old witch. He attempts to defeat her, but she displays with age comes knowledge, overpowering the ninja instantly. Following this, she walks around thinking nothing will happen, but years later, ninja re-emerges with demons by his side, tells her this is the end for her, dashing forward with his blades. With him being much faster, so has no time to react. To her surprise, the ninja kisses her. After this happened, the hero was chosen to lead the people. It was revealed that it was all fake. Chose this random guy because of his charm, giving him the false narrative that he was a hero. Before this happened, they tried to pick a cute girl, but she didn't even try to become the hero. Another one of their options was some chubby kid. Made the elders wonder how he even made the list. Meanwhile, Saitu is seen picking locks as usual. This time he has a book with a lock on it, making him wonder what could be stored inside. Eventually, he opens it up, but to his surprise, hidden inside is an old piece of trash. He wonders what it's used for, but when Morlock emerges behind him, he realizes it's something weird. Morlock then snags it back from him and starts eating it. Following this event, Saitu is asked to help the party disassemble a monster. He gives it a try, but it's too difficult for him, so Morlock suggests they get some dwarf to do it. The only catch is this dwarf is in a room surrounded by 100 locks, making it almost impossible to see him. That is, for most people, Saitu easily opens up all the locks and grants an audience with the dwarf. Here he takes this chance to see if the dwarf knows how to cook. After asking, the dwarf prepares a large variety of food, putting Saitu at ease. At dinner, he flirts with Ralza until he oversteps his boundaries, making her cringe. Once this happens, he thinks about making a gun to hopefully feel more manly. Before he can make this gun, however, gets sick, causing him to be bedridden. Companions help him through this until they start to feel what happens when Saitu isn't around. They beg him to get back to work. Saitu plans on preparing himself as much as he can before he does. He starts by purchasing various goods until he thinks about his past life and how he died. Being hit by a train when he first spawned into this world, he appeared next to Ralza while she was sleeping. This creeped her out when Morlock defended him, telling the others he is just a young man. Eventually, they all started venturing together, overcoming during various fights. Despite Saitu being so handy, he has no mana at all, making him pretty useless in real fights. He tells this to his party over dinner, asking if they have any ideas for him to become stronger. He suggests he level up, so they head back into the dungeon. Upon entering the dungeon, they venture around until their map eventually leads them to the supposed treasure area. To their surprise, nothing is there, so they consider heading back until something interrupts them. Flying robot attacks Saitu, but he grabs it, making him wonder what other treasures could be here. He lets it fly away and finds a small crack in the wall. He inspects it further until Morlock reveals that it is a camouflage wall. With ease, he breaks the spell, revealing new expansion to the dungeon. Once they found this area, tons of adventurers began exploring it, causing it to be named. It was named Saitu's Tunnel, and it attracted tons of new adventurers to a relatively small area. Episode 4. Although Saitu discovered this area, he doesn't get to hold on to any of the profits that come with it. One thing he does wonder about is the robot that he saw wandering around in the dungeon. While he is thinking, the fake hero emerges, putting on a show for Saitu. He announces himself as the hero, but nobody seems to pay him any mind, knowing by appearance he is some fraud. Hero Kynes announces to the party that he will conquer the dungeon at once. Following this, some chubby kid emerges and introduces himself as Montel, priest of their party. He offers a hand to Saitu, but he gets interrupted by an elf informing him Montel has something hidden in his hand. This causes the others affected by his gimmick to chase after him, leaving the elf girl alone with Saitu's party. He tells them to hurry along and enter the dungeon. Little do they know it has already been cleared. The Demon King, dressed as a soldier, leaves the dungeon with the head of a huge monster head. As they walk past Saitu, Elsa informs him that she can tell they are the strongest party here. Following this, the Demon King goes and sits around a fire, hopefully get a good rest. He talks with another, reveals he has no idea of the Demon King's true identity. As he talks, gets assassinated from behind, causing the Demon King to reveal his true power. With this person being Knave, famous assassin, he has no trouble slicing through the Demon King in an instant. This attack takes down the Demon King in a single hit, showing that Knave is not one to mess with. Once this happens, the man who was believed to be killed is seen reporting back to the king. He reveals that the Demon King is still alive, but will take him a couple of weeks to recover, putting them out of the race for getting all the goods from the dungeon. Once the king sees all of this, wonders if he could go try and conquer it himself, but ultimately he gives up. Them giving up, some others have dropped out as well, including the mega old geezer. He walked around in the dungeon but realized his weapon was too big, so he went home. Meanwhile, Morlock sleeps on the battlefield, showing he is a fool. Elsa is forced to take the lead because of this, striking a giant turtle. While this happens, Saitu tries to wake Morlock up. They are interrupted when another adventurer emerges. He defeats the turtle with a single blow and introduces herself to the others as Liliza, magical beast hunter. She informs the others that because she defeated the monster, she plans on taking the treasure chest. Standing behind her is another man who is confident he can pick the lock. Gives it a try, but fails, causing Saitu to offer to help. While he picks the lock, Liliza notices how good-looking Saitu is. She considers making a move. Before she does, however, Saitu opens the lock and presents all the contents inside to Liliza's party. He presents one to the thief, and this makes his heart skip a beat, showing the treasure chest wasn't the only thing he opened. Following this, they continue adventuring until Saitu gets separated from his party. While walking around, he stumbles upon the cheeky fat kid, Mompy. He shows no ill intentions and asks if he can tag along, making Mompy wonder what use he has. He asks Saitu what his use is, casting a protection spell on himself. He informs Saitu that he can't help him if he gets injured, so Saitu makes his own defensive spell. He surrounds himself with holy water, thus making a barrier for him to sit around alongside Mompy. While they chill, Saitu pulls out 5 sandwiches, flexing on Mompy. With so many sandwiches, Saitu offers Mompy one, but he rejects it, feeling bad that he was rude to Saitu earlier. He realizes that if he wants others to treat him nicely, then he needs to treat them nicely. Eventually, the rest of Saitu's party emerges, making Mompy feel even more alone. He thinks his party has left him, but suddenly, Hines runs over asking for his help. He tells Mompy that he is needed for their party. He shouldn't run off on them again. While they have a moment, Ralza is seen in the middle of a battle, with a large spider-looking monster standing between her and the treasure chest. He shows no signs of backing down. Before she can defeat the monster, however, the elf girl emerges and steals the kill. Ralza asks what she is doing, but neither of them are able to back down. This leads to the two having a duel against each other to see who gets to claim the treasure. They then make an agreement with a magic seal that whoever wins gets the chest to ensure that there will be no hard feelings if someone dies. Now with this in motion, the two prepare to start their duel, neither side showing any weaknesses. They both get strikes in, but over time, Rylza begins to get overpowered. With the battle seemingly decided, Rylza is forced to change her game plan and take off the armor. She reveals her stunning figure and stands off against the elf girl, showing she can match her speed. Just as she gets into this outfit, straps become undone, revealing more than she intended. Because of this, she stops the duel, ultimately causing both sides to stop their fight. After this happens, Saitu opens up the treasure and decides to split it amongst each party. They then head further into the dungeon where Saitu spots the robot he has seen before. Without a second though, he chases after it till he eventually arrives at an area with tons of junk from his old world. He questions what it could be. Suddenly, Nave appears from above, dashes towards Saitu. Thankfully, Ryelza was close behind, so she gets in the middle of them, stops the attack. Nave doesn't stop, however, pushing Ryelza until he gets stopped by the dwarf. Changes his attention to the dwarf, but with the utilization of fire magic, he forces Nave to retreat. The dwarf then approaches Morlock and introduces himself as Givingal, asking him if he remembers him. Tells Morlock he is his long-lost student. Morlock is so old he has no clue who the dwarf is. Before we continue, let's take a moment to shout out the winner of the last video's top comment, Stops 1492. Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video, episode 5. The others ask the dwarf what he means, wondering when he was taught by Morlock. He then begins explaining, tells them that 20 years ago he went to his village and taught them magic. Once they hear the story, they ask Morlock if he really doesn't remember, causing him to think back again. The dwarf then tells him that he used to be a ladies' man with a hidden name, Great Mage Belgame. He tells this to Morlock, a dagger flies in and takes him out before he can finish his sentence. After this happens, they look around and eventually find Nave alongside the demons. To learn how he befriended these demons, let's backtrack to when he first left Hell alongside them. He revealed his feelings for the witch to them, making them wonder how he could be in love with such an evil being. Nave doesn't care, however, continuing his search until one day he stumbled upon an old storehouse with a hidden room. He decided to further explore this area until he found a white-haired woman lying down. Upon first glance, she appeared to be just some filthy beggar, but he soon realized there was something up about her. Here he realized she was the witch whose age had finally caught up to her. Standing beside the witch is another fairy who informs Nave what happened to her. She reveals that the witch had originally cast a spell upon herself to keep Air young forever. One condition to this spell was for her to never fall in love, meaning Nave is the reason her life is coming to an end. This hits Nave too deep, wondering why, after he finally found love, she has to die. Just as he gives up, the fairy informs him that there is an artifact in the dungeon that can revive her. This leads us back to the present with Ryelza currently in battle against him. While these two fight, the dwarf deals with one of the demons, leaving Morlock to be the rear support. Despite his strength, it takes too long to cast a spell, allowing the other demon to emerge as well. They push the dwarf back and send in a strong magical spell. Thankfully, the dwarf blocks the attack for them, thus preserving Saitu and Morlock's life. While they are under this protective spell, Saitu tells Morlock to cast a spell, but he can't remember the lines for it. Saitu helps him along the way and tells him the spell, allowing Morlock to unleash his true strength. With the wave of his wand, the demon's attack is stopped, and he lands a strike of his own. To their surprise, however, it did little to no damage, allowing the demon to grab hold of Saitu and crush his head. Ryelza thinks this is the end of him, but somehow his body turns into petals, revealing it was a body double. Following this gibre, the thief emerges and tells Saitu that he came to rescue him. Litza interrupts him and informs Saitu that he has been stalking him this entire time. This angers Nave and his party, so they attack, but the elven girl, Ranril, emerges and blocks the attack. Instead of striking fear, this does the opposite, causing the demons to attack again. Once again, their attack is stopped. This time, Mompi is the one defending Saitu, telling him he has come to rescue him. Now, with a ton of opponents, Nave decides to pull out, knowing he has no chance to overpower so many foes. Despite this, with their numbers, they are unable to retreat, causing each of the adventurers to shine. Once he sees how much they are working together, Nave wonders if this will really be his end. He remembers all the strong opponents he has fought thus far, and what his purpose is, so he doesn't give up. He runs in between an attack and defends the demon, making their image of Nave even stronger. They think highly of him, but Nave acts cold, telling them to let him handle this. Once the other party sees Nave tank this attack, they wonder just how strong he really is. Tension arising, Saitu speaks up and asks everyone to stop fighting. Even with these words, neither side wants to back down, leading to more fighting. Primas, the fairy that follows Nave around, resorts to her last card, summoning a demon god to help them. To complete this summoning, she orders Nave to break off her wings and finish it for good. Primas is a black fairy that is rare and often sought after by humans. After she began eating the human food, she got fat and was eventually captured by the humans. Before she was abused, however, which emerged and saved Primas from captivity. Since this day, Primas had followed the witch around, becoming best friends in the process. Primas had always known that the witch's life would end when she fell in love, but she had no way to stop her from falling in love. Now in the present, she tries to sacrifice herself in order to hopefully acquire a time-reversing magical item from the dungeon. So Primas takes it upon herself to summon the demon god. The invisible telekinesis spell, she commands 2 daggers to slice her wing's thug, initiating the spell, allowing her to summon the demon god within her own body. Now with a new foe before them, I wonder how they could possibly stand against such a strong force. Episode 6. With the demon god's initial attack taking off the ear of Franlil, the others realize how deadly this demon god really is. They try and think of a plan. The demon god continues attacking, giving nobody a chance to think. Eventually, Morlock steps forward and casts a spell with the help of Saitu, giving the adventurers a chance to regroup. Although this attack was strong, it left little to no damage on the demon god, diminishing the spirits of the adventurers. After the demon god recovered from the attack, it started up again, forcing the adventurers into chaos. As time goes on and attacks continue, Saitu begins to form a plan. Tells Morlock that within the locked book he inspected, there was a note written inside of it. It told of a spell that would revert time entirely. Saitu then asks Morlock if he was the one who summoned him into this world. Finding the spell within his book, Morlock tries to think back, but instead remembers a time he shared with his daughter. He would care for her deeply, but was always busy with his work, him previously being the strongest sorcerer in the entire kingdom. One night arose, however, where his daughter had a bad cold, but he wasn't around. Her mother cared for her while she was ill, hiding a deep truth. Following this, Morlock gets home but tells her that he is just coming for a book and that he already told some doctors to take care of her. Explains that as the great sorcerer, he has no time to waste on them, needing to spend his days researching. Once his wife hears this, she informs him that his daughter wishes he was home every night, but Morlock doesn't care. He leaves yet again, only to return years later with a new title as the strongest sorcerer in all the world. Instead of being greeted, however, his wife informs him that his daughter passed away from not being treated. Morlock instantly thought of reviving her, but he realized that he doesn't have enough money to pay the church to do it. Because of this, he lost his only daughter from his own neglect. After this happened, his wife left him as well, leaving Morlock with a meaningless title, realizing he has nobody to show it to. This enraged him, so he went on a rampage, destroying everything in sight until he stumbled upon a book. It looked strange, so he inspected it and learned there exists magic to manipulate time itself. Since that day, he had been journeying the world until he eventually stumbled upon the Great Labyrinth. At first, he was skeptical. Upon exploring further, he found a room that is now known as Saitu Tunnel. Here he found the same room they currently stand in, along with some papers entailing the time manipulation magic. Instead of what he was hoping for, however, it contained time stop magic along with summoning a person from another world. Right after he finished reading the paper, another mage emerges, causing Morlock to demand it hand over the time reverse spell. It protests, telling him they have no reason to do so, which causes Morlock to ready his magic. This time, instead of forgetting the spells, he successfully casts it and unleashes a mountain of mana against the foe. After this attack, he is seen defeated, with the other being standing tall. It tells Morlock that he has no reason to turn back time, telling him she is already put to rest. Just as soon as it appeared, it vanished, leaving Morlock with nothing to show for. Along with this, he loses a majority of his memories, making him seem like a senile old man. Because of this, he forgot his painful past, thus relieving him of the memory of his own daughter. Fast track back to the past, and Saitu is seen asking Morlock the very question of whether he summoned him into this world or not. Morlock tries to remember, but with him being so senile, he tells Saitu that he needs more time to think. Saitu then informs him that he also memorized the time-stopping spell, potentially save them from this situation. While they talk, the demon god continues to attack, missing every attack. Even with this, Saitu has time to go over to Morlock and assure him that even if he did summon him, has no problems with him. They then begin their counterattack, with the dwarf acting as the shield to allow Morlock to cast his spell. Morlock then tries to chant his spell, but he forgot it. He asks Saitu to help him out. Without hesitation, Saitu runs to his side and recites the spell word for word to Morlock, while the others block the incoming attacks. After stumbling his words a couple times and all the others trying their best to stop the attacks, Morlock finishes his time stop spell. This freezes everything around him, meaning it's up to him to decide the fate of the battle. Once this happened, he forgets what he was doing. He stands around waiting for time to unfreeze.